Isn't that what killed the cat there, Tim? Or was that Nacho?
They say things are changing in the automotive industry. New technology, computers, self-driving vehicles. From where we stand, we see our future and our path. The Collision Repair Education Foundation supports educational programs, schools, and students, working to create qualified, entry-level employees ready for the career opportunities our industry provides. But we can't do this mission without you. Each year, the foundation works to connect corporations and individuals to schools and students across this country. By being a part of our mission, you become an amplified force of leadership, reaching students, instructors, and community businesses in every corner of the industry. From where we stand, together, we see our community evolving and supporting each other. We see connections being forged in fire and fostered with trust. Connections that live long past graduation day. Connections that form the foundation of our workforce and shape the future of collision repair. Your support not only provides the much-needed resources for instructional education, but builds local communities by facilitating a sustainable workforce. A workforce trained in tradition, but equipped for the future. Learn more about how you can impact the collision repair industry yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Ritter from Collision Repair Education Foundation, Doug Irish from the Fayetteville College, and Corey Millar from, I'm going to butcher this up,
Redbuck.
Redbuck, yeah.
There you go.
I keep thinking Reeboks. Why am I thinking Reeboks? So we've been interviewing some shop owners throughout the weekend, a couple of different panels. The big struggle is finding labor in the industry. Our industry, actually every industry, is looking for labor for all kinds of different job opportunities that are out there. I'm going to start with Amber, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your position, and then some thoughts of where you kind of see, or what you kind of see in our marketplace when it comes to needing new hires.
Sure. Hi, my name is Amber Ritter, and I am the Director of Marketing and Project Management for the Collision Repair Education Foundation. We are a national 501c3 that looks to support both high school and post-secondary programs in collision, as well as the industry as a whole when it comes to three main key areas, and that's attraction, supporting of the schools, as well as employment. So my background, I've been with the foundation for about 6 months, so I'm really excited to join them. However, I've been in the industry for about 10 years, primarily in the training and development area. And I came into the industry from a different sector, but still in program development and training. So it's a little bit about me. I have had the privilege to work both with schools and educators, as well as with shops themselves, and have seen a number of the challenges and hurdles that shops are facing, but have also seen some great strides towards making some real change when it comes to employment and when it comes to really creating career paths for entry-level technicians.
Good. That's good information. Doug, I hate to say it, but you and I have grown gray together. You've been in this industry a long time in several different facets. Tell us about yourself and your position and what you're doing.
Right. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I've been in the industry quite a long time, and I think I've served in almost every function in the industry. Doug Irish, I'm from Fayetteville Technical Community College. I run the collision repair and refinished technology program here. We've got probably 45, 46 years in the industry, starting in Votech school, high school. Went in the military, and then when I got out, I jumped back in the collision repair industry as a technician. So I worked technician and shop side for 15 years in multiple facets, from technician right up through management and ownership, and then 20 years on the insurance side of the business in the claims department, working up to the chain there to administrator before I left, and opened a consulting business for quality assurance for collision repair shops. So I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've seen a lot of change. Thought I was retired and got an opportunity to come to work for Fayetteville Technical Community College. I also serve with Amber. I sit on the CREF Board of Trustees, so I work with Amber as well. And I just don't go to work every day because I'm actually enjoying it. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh, good. And then Corey, you're not actually in the collision repair business, but you're in the recruiting business. So tell us a little bit about what you do and you know, some of the things that you see in all industries when it comes to trying to recruit.
Yeah, well, glad to be here. Excited to share some information with everyone here, and really just even learn a little bit about the industry. So I work specifically in the medical device, pharmaceutical, life sciences industry from a recruitment standpoint. I've been working in the industry for going on 7 years in April, and it's really been a passion of ours. We've taken our organization, Redbach, from, company size of about 12 upwards, to basically triple that size now over the last 7 years. And so my focus has been very heavily on leading our recruitment efforts when it comes to both skilled as well as lower level team members within the group. We do a lot of work with technicians as well as skilled labor. So we do have a pretty wide breadth of support that we're doing, just more specifically within the life sciences arena. In addition to that, we actually are a subsidiary of NES Furcroft, which is a global organization that works specifically in the energy, gas, and oil space as well. So we do have some ties to the automotive industry in that sense, and really just excited, to share a little bit of information that's been going on really across all industries. We're kind of having a candidate shortage. A lot of that has been due to, as many have tabbed it, the Great Resignation, and seen a lot of turnover within industries. Individuals who have been with companies 15, 20 years are venturing out, looking for better options and pursuing them in ways that we haven't seen in the past. So thought it was a great opportunity to join and share some of that perspective as well.
Yep. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to turn this over to Carl here and let him run some of the questions and take it away.
And here we go.
And here we go.
And here we go. So let's start off with, so thank you all for joining us today. The collision industry is experiencing a great shortage, but this didn't start with the pandemic. This didn't start in 2020. This started way, way before any of our current circumstances. It's just the last few years have exacerbated the issue. So I want to start off with Amber, because you're really on the helping us get the collision new technicians involved in the industry. So talk to me about the CREF mission, the Collision Repair Education Foundation mission, and what it means to this industry today.
Sure. Yeah, kind of like I had touched on in our intro, we really are focused on 3 key areas, and that is the attraction piece. So getting awareness out of the opportunities in our industry, getting it out early and often to influencers, whether that be parents or school counselors, celebrities, and showcasing the vast array of different careers that you could be taken down. We also are in that support component, and that's probably been kind of the foundation of where we've spent a lot of our time and our resources up until this point, as we kind of start spreading our wings a little bit. And that is support of consumables to schools, that tools, equipment, really helping them have the tools and resources that they need to be able to teach our future technicians. A lot of the school budgets are not necessarily nearly enough to be able to keep up with technology. We also help with providing and connecting instructors with training and training opportunities. We really look to be that bridge between the career technical education component and the employer. So we do have career fairs. We do have a student resume database that we look to help connect those students to employment. Some of the other things that we see ourselves really trying to fill that gap in is those soft skills, as well as job readiness tools, resume building tools, interviewing skills, portfolios, things of that nature. So that's a little bit about some of what we do and how we go about trying to kind of help, number one, get more people into CTE programs, and number two, get them employed when they're completed with their program.
Now, when you talk about helping schools, what are you talking about? Helping schools? Are we talking about vocational schools? We're talking about high schools? We're talking about junior highs? At what level are you kind of jumping in and saying, "Hey, we can help these students who want a career in automotive, who want a career working with their hands, consider this area of the industry"? Sure.
So I'll tell you kind of traditionally where we've been, and then I'll tell you some exciting news about where we're going in July.
Yes.
So traditionally we've been in that high school post-secondary area. So, that CTE where they are taking those exploratory classes in high school, as well as when they enter a post-secondary program at a community college or a CTE program there. Where we're headed is we are deepening our relationship with the American School Counselors Association, and we'll actually be at their conference in July in Austin. So, and in a big way, we'll be a keynote speaker, sponsorship opportunities, as well as getting in front of 4,000 school counselors, anywhere from elementary school through high school is the primary. There are a small amount of college, but for the most part, that demographic is the younger market for school counselors. So the elementary, the middle school, and then the high school influencers.
Well, we've had a number of shop owners on and industry guests this week talking about this very subject of where do you jump in front of these folks, and that has been the question. Is we all have been looking at this and saying, yeah, maybe high school's too late. Maybe they're all into the technology area already and they're being pushed to a 4-year college, and we haven't had the opportunity, or we haven't provided our industry the opportunity, let me put it that way, of getting in front of them enough.
Right. Well, and it's kind of like any other branding type initiative, is they need to see the opportunity multiple times at multiple stages of their career and their decision making points. So if we get in front of them early, and then maybe they're not even ready to make that decision yet, but by the time they get ready to make their decision, we've been planted in their brain as an option, as something maybe that they want to explore, and not just for people that have nowhere else to go, but for people that really want to be in this industry because they're passionate about cars, because they love taking things apart and putting them back together, because they love just kind of being a part of a fast-paced, kind of cool industry.
Well, and you bring that up, and what I'm thinking is you're right. This is a cool industry, and for those of us, like some of our guests today, grew up on computers, and I'm not going to call Corey out because I love Corey and he knows I love him, but Corey grew up in a different time than I did. He had all kinds of electronics in his hands when they weren't even thought of in Buck Rogers' Future series. So in my lifetime. So, we have that different industry, but these cars are becoming more electronic every day. So you're right. If we can get in front of them saying, hey, you know what? Your PlayStation doesn't have wheels and can't get you from point A to point B. You want to try this? Maybe that's an option for you. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think that there is a vast amount of people who don't want to necessarily enter traditional jobs where they sit behind a desk 9 to 5. And this is an option. This is something where you're active all the time, but even beyond that, when you're done with that portion, or when you've kind of been like, okay, I'm ready for the next career, there is an option from there to go into an array of different fields.
Yeah, just being a technician is just basically the stepping point, I believe, because, there's office management that has to be done. There's facilitating the claims. There's just so many different things, and parts departments. But just like this morning with the presentation we had this morning from Frank Turlett, you're going to need a technology person in your building to be able to take care of all this ADAS stuff that's coming up and the calibrations and all that our business is becoming more and more high tech every day. So it's not like the traditional body career that I was told in high school that I should go to college because, I needed that 4-year degree, and, what was I going to do in a body shop?
Yeah. Well, and teaching those entry level, those fresh, essentially the new generation that has grown up on computers, they're going to pick all this stuff up just like walking.
Well, there's always an app for that, right?
Great. You don't quite remember Oregon Trail or using a BlackBerry.
So now that we've said, okay, we get in front of these technicians, these future technicians, right? Future recruits, and they decide to come into this industry. Now we kind of do that handoff to the Doug Irishes of the world in terms of the vocational VOTEC colleges and trade schools. And Doug, tell us how you're trying to get those folks in and recruit more students into your class. Because again, we have an aging technician base. You know, our average technician age is into the 40s now. And we don't have the supply of technicians coming in. What are you doing at Fayetteville, and what is college? What are we doing to get these people in?
Well, thanks, Carl. Interestingly enough, I just got off a couple of calls with some high school counselors, and what I've done with FTCC is change the focus for our program, not necessarily at college, but our program was focused on adult learners. We're located literally 2 miles out the front gate of Fort Bragg. So when they opened Collision U, in 2014, 2015, the thought was that we kind of had a captive audience there with military that were looking to transition into the private sector. And that went well for a little while. We also have a transition tech at FTCC for military that are transitioning out. So we partnered up with Caliber Collision, and they have put a program together with federal approval, and it had an impact on our enrollment as well, because now we offered a 16-week program for transitioning soldiers that could also, by participating in that, be guaranteed a job with Caliber Collision when they left. So it reduced our numbers significantly for the Collision U associate's degree. And we started to look at what we could do to enhance those numbers. When I got here, having been a product of the high school, technical school part of it for a couple of years, my junior and senior year, thought that we needed to go back to looking at some younger folks coming in for a couple of reasons. Number one, you mentioned it, Carl, was the population of technicians today is in their mid 40s, and I don't think that's going down just yet. So if anything, it's probably trending up a little bit over the last 4 or 5 years. So we really need younger folks to come into the industry for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the industry's tough on your body. If you're a technician, you're in your 40s and 50s, starts to get a little harder to get around those cars and up and down on them. So I started looking toward the high schools again, and really found that in the traditional open houses, we didn't get a lot of interest from students because they're historically looking for 4-year programs, traditional transfer type programs where they're going into engineering, or they're going into law enforcement or nursing or medical somehow. So they're not really looking at us when the high schools were setting up those open houses for colleges. More of the students that were going to be traditional learners, or somebody that's going to go to a transfer school, passed right by us. So I started working directly with the counselors to talk to them about what we do at Collision U and the opportunities that are available in this industry, the different career paths that are available. You don't have to be a technician. You don't have to be a painter. You don't have to be a frame tech. You could be, a claims adjuster. You could be a front office staff member. There are a number of different job paths, career paths off of this industry, involved in the industry. And, every one of them you can make a very good living at. So I started to get the interest of the high school counselors understanding better what we do here and what we offer to those students that maybe come in their office, but they don't really know what they want to do, but they know they don't want to go get a 4-year degree. And they don't want to go to work at a local McDonald's or 7-Eleven or whatever happens to be. And I think now we've had a pretty good success rate with our counselors within the county. As I started off talking about, I've got a couple of meetings set up where I'm going to go in and talk to those students who know they're not going to college, but they don't want high school to be, I don't want to waste my time and not have something to do. So we have a high school connections program. There's 15 or 16 high schools in the Cumberland County here. The last high school connections program we ran before the pandemic hit, we were pretty successful. We had what we thought was a good number of students, 15 or 16 students, but they came from 9 or 10 different high schools instead of the traditional 1 or 2 that we've been seeing with only 4 or 5 students participating. So we were starting to make some real headway with that. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit. We canceled the last 2-year classes for high school connections, and we just opened again this year for high school. So again, we've got a small class, 5 students, 3 different schools, but I think we'll improve that going into the spring and then again next fall when we roll out. So my goal has been to expose the industry to these students at a younger age. And I have probably 100% success with getting a student enrolled in our program if I can get them to come to our facility and see what we're doing and how we're doing it. And it is 100% when I have their parents with them. If I have a young student coming in from high school and they bring their parents with them, 100% of the time we've been able to convert them into associate degree program students. So, and they've been very successful in the program, completing it, moving on into the industry. So we're pretty proud of that. One of the challenges that I see from a high school perspective is that to move immediately into the industry coming out of high school, I think I'd like to know what the success rate is for retention for those students, because having gone that route, one of the reasons I went into the military was I wasn't happy with the body shop that I'd gone to work for after I got out of high school. I mean, I had 2 years of high school curriculum with a technical school, but it's really not a large foundation of knowledge that you have. So you're really, just a gopher, for lack of a better term at that point. And it wasn't something that I was interested in. So, and I won't say I was set up for failure by the program I was in. I just, at that time, the shop didn't have any kind of a mentoring system in place. They didn't understand how to use, new talent coming in that doesn't have the experience of a 5 or 10 year veteran. So I got a bad taste in my mouth and I decided to join the military. And then when I got out, I went back in the industry and I had a little different perspective on what I needed to do to make myself more attractive to an employer. I don't know that a lot of high schoolers have that mindset today. So what I would like to see us do is, give them that entry level education at the high school and then get them right into the 2-year program with the college. When they leave here, they're at least a C Tech. I've had some leave here that start off as a B Tech in some of the shops, and they do very well. And the retention for our students, we track them as we go through. Over 90% are staying with the industry. So I think that's a win for everybody versus, just feeding the industry with a bunch of young, high school students that may or may not stick with it because they're not really sure what it really is. I think that we can have a positive effect by getting them involved early, but making sure that they stick to, a 2-year degree at least before they go into the industry. And I'm saying that selfishly, but it seems to hold true.
You bring up some great points in your statement there, Doug. I mean, first off, we've had an interesting, and I'm just going to say interesting, last couple of years, and it's really hard to teach body repair virtually. In fact,
Right.
darn near next to impossible because it's a hand skill. You got to work with your hands in order to understand how the sanders work, how the welders work, how you fit parts on a vehicle. You just have to work with your hands. So
yeah, we were fortunate with FTCC. I think we were out January and February of 2020, and then a lot of our our CTE classes here had the same concern that, I just can't deliver this product online virtually. So we put in place all the COVID protocols that were being required, and we've had, tracked what's going on in our school, and FTCC has been open for face-to-face training for those classes where it makes sense since March of 2020. So we were back in the classroom within 10 weeks, and it was hard. It was hard for 10 weeks, but we got back in face-to-face, and we've not suffered from it at all. The students have been very good about making sure they're wearing their PPE, and we took care of things that way. But to your point, there's only so much online training you can do, and I don't know that I would want to suffer through a surgery with a doctor that only did his training on a video chat or something like that.
So, Doug, you're trying to say the swim course my daughter took last spring online, she didn't learn to swim?
Probably not. Did you drop her in the tub or the pool afterwards, Tim?
I don't know. She just told me she passed the course online, and I was like, we don't have a swimming pool. How did you do that?
Right. Yeah. No, I'd be a little hesitant to jump in the deep end if I were her.
So I'm going to toss it over to Corey real quick. Now, a little bit about Corey. We said he's not from the industry. Now, Corey, tell him a little bit about your background, and then I got a couple follow-up questions for you.
Yeah. So I'm based in the recruitment industry. We work with life sciences directly. I actually lead up our relationship directly with our actual largest client with our group, Medtronic. We have over 30 team members placed with their group across the country, well over 200 consultants with our team just in the life sciences business, separate entirely from NES. So, having had over 6 years of recruitment experience, the industry has changed over the years. There have been sways where there were definitely advantages to the hirer, the individual doing the hiring. The employer definitely had a plethora of candidates to choose from. Maybe earlier in my career, that has certainly shifted, especially of late, not only just in our industry, but as a whole. As I mentioned before, there's been a lot of resignations across many industries, individuals looking to either change career paths, look for more stability, higher compensation, more flexibility with their schedule, priorities that were less important to candidates in the past several years ago who were more desperate or in need immediately of a job position have been kind of pushed to the wayside to some extent with the number of opportunities available to those candidates to consider. And from that perspective, it's become more important to really put your hiring as a forefront when it comes to the growth of your organization and really the stability and retention of those employees. I think it's really become important, especially to focus on the existing employees that you have when it comes to retention. That's something even just within our own organization that we've noticed that, if we spend a lot of time coach up an individual and educate them to do this work really well, they become a target to others. They're someone that is attractive to someone else in our industry that would want to use that person. And if we're not putting in a good career plan, a 1, a 3, a 5-year plan, some career trajectory that really shows them the long-term potential and growth, it becomes difficult to retain those team members. And I think that's becoming ever important across the board for every industry to really get that investment and keep those individuals within not only your organization, but the industry as a whole.
Well, and in this industry, and now, group, correct me if I'm wrong here, we don't have that warm, fuzzy welcome to the collision industry culture in a lot of facilities that we have in Corey's industry. Let's say, for instance, okay. So a lot of times you get, as Doug mentioned, you walk in as a sweeper, a detailer, a prepper, and you get beat on for about 7-8 years until you can get to the point where your stall is ready for you. And then, if you can make it through those times, and you get beat on for another 15 years, and then you're bitter and you want to retire. And am I saying something that's unique That's not true here.
Well, that's maybe a little bit rough, but you're on point there. That when they do start out, they're not, they're not putting, in the right position. Sometimes maybe in harm's way, depending on who they're working with. But I think that the big strong point that I see, and Doug brought it up, is back in the day. I know even when I started in the business, there wasn't a mentoring process. You're basically thrown to the wolves. And show us what you can do. And I think today our industry has moved to a point to where some of the larger MSOs have stepped up, started their own training programs to be able to mentor some people. As Doug was talking about, you have CREF that's out there trying to, we've worked with them on several occasions, trying to get the right equipment for a shop, and do some educational seminars and stuff like that. The industry as a whole, I think, needs to give all of us a big hug, if you want to call it, and work together, to a common goal. I think we need to see shop owners become more interested in what's going on the junior high school, and college level, to be able to help schools like Doug. He's got a list of resumes. I'm sure CREF has a list of resumes, or an envelope full of resumes of people who are looking for work. But are they of the right qualification? I think.
Well, and Tim, to your point, I don't want to step on Carl's comments, but to your point, one of the challenges is getting the employers to understand that when you're hiring, I don't care if it's high school or 2 years of college, you're not hiring a seasoned professional. If you don't have some form of mentoring program or training program internally, you're probably going to wear out a new technician, because number one, they have to learn your culture in your shop. They may have a good grasp of the foundations of collision repair, and they understand what quality is supposed to be, but every shop has its own culture, and until they learn that, they're kind of behind the 8 ball. And if they're trying to learn the culture in your shop, and they're placed with, and a lot of shops may have mentoring programs, but maybe they didn't necessarily put in the newbie with a seasoned professional that wants to be a mentor. And I've worked with some guys in the body shop that, thank God I got thick skin, but they would wear you out in 5 minutes, just to see if they could get you to quit. So you got to have the right culture in your shop for that to be successful. It's not enough to say we want to do this. You actually have to have those technicians, because it impacts their pay when they're helping train, a new technician, whether, there could a bunch of different ways that you can compensate technicians for that. But ultimately, sometimes it impacts their pay negatively until they can get a new technician up to speed and they can be successful and productive. So it's a challenge for not only the shop, but a challenge for the technicians that they've been placed in that role of mentoring. I've worked in a shop, managed a shop in New York that we basically had a team concept. So they split their compensation between their team, and it kept everybody interested in making sure they were doing the right thing and that everybody was working equally as hard. You really have to make sure that whoever you have in the role of mentor is willing to take it on the chin for a week or a month or 2 months or whatever it is, before they start seeing production out of their new helper, that they're going to be training, hopefully to take their place at some point in the future, or work alongside them as an A-Tech, not too long down the road. And the goal would be, I would think, in most shops, a year or 2 years, you'd really like to be able to say, you're progressing nicely. We like what we're seeing. We'd like to continue to keep you here, versus, and I've gone up on, when we put our students out, part of our, it's not really an apprenticeship, but one of our last curriculum programs, we let them go out and work in a shop, and we give them credit for their last class. But part of that is me going out and interviewing the manager for the shop. And I've had a couple of managers tell me, well, he's not doing as well as we expected him to do. and we're not sure that he's going to make it through, another year with us. So, we'll work with the student even after they leave here to make sure that they're on the right career path. But it's a different kind of animal to implement a mentoring program in a live production shop. There's a lot of moving pieces to it, and it's not something you just throw the kitchen sink at it and hope it's going to work.
Well, and you talk about being successful, and I'm sorry, Amber, I'm gonna toss it back to you in just a second here. But I wanted to get back with Corey here for just a second, because one of the things that struck me about Corey's comments was they've got a plan to bring these individuals assimilate them into their roles with a high level of success and for retention, and that is a focus of their organization. And I'd like to know a little bit more about that, because what I don't see in a lot of shops, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not saying all, I'm not saying every, but I'm not saying there's a high percentage either, is that concept of the mentoring up that Corey talked about. So why is that important in what you're doing?
Yeah, well, in that sense, I think really it comes down to having career growth opportunities. Someone has to see the long-term potential of investing in, this career. That's really something that I think our generation, my generation, I should say, the 20 to 40-year-olds of the world, even maybe upwards of 35, if you want to consider it, more that range, the Zillennial, as we've been discussing recently, Carl, Gen Z, and kind of the younger millennial generations, they want to see the long-term potential. They want to understand the value that they're going to have 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road. They don't want to be in the same place a year from now, 24 months from now. So I think it's really important to provide that kind of upskilling set of opportunities, and I think that's probably even more relevant to your industry. I think there are opportunities for growth where you can kind of set that path and really give them a transitional timeline for going from, as Doug was maybe talking about, a C-level tech to a B-level tech to an A-level tech, and understanding what that timeline looks like, but also to Doug's point, having the culture internally that supports that. I think it's really important. We've built a really strong team environment at Redbox. It's even though it's a sales environment, ultimately we're all working to get placements and support our clients. It really it relies on a collaborative set of instances for us to hit our team goals. And I think, Doug makes a good point in building around the success around not just the individual and their goals, but also the team's success, and getting that cultural buy-in from everyone on the team to pick up the slack where they need to, be willing to take a little bit of time from their own, potential money earning hours, so to speak, to help this other person, knowing that that's going to put us in a better place stability-wise for our business, help the image of our business to our clients, and, continue to reflect well, and bring not only opportunities for our candidates, but ultimately continue to gain, positive reputation, so that we'll have more candidates coming to us to pursue new opportunities. But it's really important to just have that awareness as well, when it comes to job postings and really having the marketing aspect of it that Amber was mentioning earlier. I think when it comes to bringing those individuals in and really emphasizing the things that you're putting in place that will be attractive to those candidates, rather than just putting up a job posting, but really marketing the culture and, the aspects of your business that are going to help them from a long-term standpoint.
So it's more of a sales. You're selling your business to your new recruits and helping them contribute to the facility in a sense.
Absolutely.
Is that,
yeah.
Well, and that leads me back to Amber, which is knowing that the culture that we have right now, how is the CREF in helping us grow as an industry when it comes to that kind of culture?
Well, I mean, one of the things is we're really trying to get out there and educate and work with both shops and students and schools, and kind of be that collaborating partner that brings all three pieces together, and helping to work with shops too on how to build that career pathing, how to kind of look at ensuring that when you do get a student or when you do get an entry-level employee, that you're able to showcase for them what their path is and have them hit those little home runs. And then showcasing students that are being successful in their careers as well, and showcasing what they're able to do 1 year out of school, 2 years out of school, 3 years out of school, and how they're kind of progressing in their own careers. You know, we talk a lot about looking at influencers, and what I see, our industry has a whole lot of influencers inside of stars that we're creating. They're creating their own pathway and showcasing their talents. So I don't know if that kind of fully wraps your head around the question, but one of the things that kind of came out of what I was listening to with Corey and Doug as well is when we look at what that transition looks like from school to employment, and ensuring that we're a competency-based industry. We're not a time-based industry. So if you end up being a helper for 7 years, but you've never actually been exposed to the skill sets that you need to get to the next level, then that 7 years doesn't matter on a resume because you don't have the skills. So that 1 year, 2 year, 5 year timeline should also have skill sets and give them opportunities to hit those little home runs. I think that's one of the things that CREF is working on doing, is collaborating with partners and collaborating with subject matter experts like Doug and others that have been in the industry for a long time to help kind of create what those best practices could and may look like.
Yeah, and to your point, you're talking about the little home runs. When I went to a local college here to bring in a person to work in our measuring team, the instructor said, "That's the guy right there. Don't talk to anybody but that guy." And I went over and I had a discussion with him, had him come out and see our facility. Hired him part-time because he was still in the course, and then when he graduated, he came to work for us, and he's been with us 3 years now, and he's past military. He came to me one day so excited because he was like, "I just got out of school not too long ago. You've given me a wonderful job, but you won't believe what the Collision Repair Education Foundation did for me. They gave me a toolbox with tools so I don't have to invest." Those little home runs are also good things to see.
Yeah, and we do host career fairs as well. We have our next round has just been released of our 10 spring career fairs. So there are those types of initiatives. We have a student resume database that we're looking at connecting, but really we realize that even if we provide these students and Doug provides these students, if they get into the shop in the facility and they're being told that they don't like the way someone walks, or they don't like, certain elements of it, is just trying to be able to help create that culture so that when we're placing a student, that we're placing them into a positive environment, and educating students as well on how to select the right employer so that when they're coming out of school, they're finding the right fit for them and the industry isn't losing them because they went to the wrong shop for their first job.
Right, because that's a valid point to something that Doug said earlier. I mean, if you get partnered up with the wrong person, or your mentor doesn't want to help influence you to move forward in the industry, as you said, if they stay there as a helper for 7 years and no one teaches them anything new, you're not going to long term keep any retention on that employee.
And it's absolutely the case. We have to work with this Zillennial group. Thank you. In this age group, and they're going to need a lot more guidance, I think, than a lot of people are understanding right now, in terms of helping them into the industry and helping them gain traction in this industry than in past generations. And it's just that there's a lot more distractions out there, like, and I'm going to say it, there's recruiters out there that they're trying to take them away from four-year colleges and put them in the electronics industry, and they're the ones that have a plan to keep them. They're not recruiting them to not keep them. They're recruiting them to keep them in place. And if you're not doing that in your shop, then you're really missing the boat, because you could have some great talent in there that just needs some motivation and some help and a plan to get them down the road. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd have to say you're correct there. I'm sitting here as you're saying that, and I'm like, well, maybe every student needs a little less screen time and more hands-on with things that they're doing.
Agreed.
Because everyone is, everyone has a motivation, if you want to call it, of what they want. But there, you do see some, they want it and they want it now. It's like the person coming in my office and telling me, well, no, I don't, because one of my questions I normally ask is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And right away, the person thinks I'm going to be retired and he's taking my seat. And that's not the case right at the moment. But so when you start to look at that, they want it that top job right away. And you have to work them up to that point, I guess you'd say. But you got to keep them motivated in between to be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we need to do more TikToks.
Well, I think Doug hit on something that's pretty spot on, is when he was talking about that team that he worked with in New York, and he's talking about the C levels, the B levels, and the A levels. Sometimes we look at those A levels as being the mentors, but we overlook the fact that the B level technician can likely be a really good mentor to that C tech, because they've learned those skills more recently than the A level technician. And they also are motivated to become a leader in your organization. So giving them that, I guess, quote unquote, authority or ability kind of creates that career path for them as well.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I have a camera operator that's out here who just graduated from high school. He's been helping us with Spinisi Interactive Week, and he's been teaching me quite a few things.
Sums about parenting.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's humbling sometimes, but it's also like, you know what, let's just go through it one step at a time. Because he's like, well, and I'm electronically savvy, but I mean, this kid's sharp. So you learn from everybody if you're open to it. If you're not open to it, then you're going to get in that situation where you're going to shut down techs that really want to contribute and give.
And he was a summer intern here also first. And then when we were putting this together, we're like, we're going to need someone extra. Can we get this? Can we get him out of college for a few days to come work with us again?
So, all right. So we're at 7 minutes to the top of the hour. Want to encourage the Q&A. If you have questions for the panel, please make sure to put them in the Q&A right now. And while we're having that go through, let's start off with and do 30 seconds, a real quick 30 seconds from each one of our panelists. And I'd like you to touch on the top one thing that you believe a collision repair shop could do to hire a great technician tomorrow. The one top thing. Who wants to go first?
I can jump in.
All right.
So from that perspective, if you're talking about the one thing that's going to help you tomorrow, I think we talked about a lot of things that are development oriented, looking at, the next few years, talking to someone who's a little bit younger. But when it comes to really being successful in recruitment right now, I'd encourage you to kind of take a step back from the standard offer. Talk to your employees. Find out what's important to them. The biggest step in retaining the existing structure that you've built, the culture that you have, is focusing on the employees and making sure that you're putting things in place that are valuable to them, because those will be attractive to individuals that are coming in. And beyond that, really having a close candidate process, not just listening to your employees, but listening to the prospective employees, asking what they want, understanding what an attractive offer looks like to those individuals, and being willing to have some flexibility to make that opportunity attractive.
So we don't have to just cut a big check and say, okay, everything's fine, because that may not be the thing. So
no, some people like Yeah, some people like the benefits. Organizations have really been putting in like diversity and inclusion measures that really create a safe environment that people want to work at. Happy employees work harder. And I think those types of maybe a little more outside the box approaches will go a long way in attracting individuals to your business.
Awesome. So who wants to go next? Amber, how about you? Well, the one thing that you can do tomorrow as a shop owner, as a hiring manager to recruit that next A technician.
Engagement with both your employees, like what Corey had said, but also engaging with your local schools before you need a technician, not when you're have the shortage and you need them all right now. But get involved, and get involved not just because you need something, but because you have something to give back as well. And you can be a part of an advisory committee, or deliver a training for them, or just kind of put yourself out there and put your team out there. Host a shop tour. Get involved and get engaged.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amber. Okay, Doug. Now 30 seconds. I'm saying 30 seconds. Okay. But I also have one tiny question to ask you. How many shop owners, before we get to your 30 seconds, how many shop owners do you have engaging you on a consistent basis, trying to help you improve your program to deliver quality shops or quality technicians to you? How many?
I'm fortunate. I won't give you a number because it's more than 10 and less than 100, but I'm fortunate because I have shops from all over the country that actually interact with us. So we have them in here twice a year, or did before the pandemic. They come in to watch our students work, and then we do what we call a draft days. So we invite owners from all over the country to come in, and they actually have traveled from as far away as Oregon and Washington to come in here and watch students for a half a day, and then the next day we set up interviews for them. So we've been very fortunate from that perspective. We have some great shops, MSOs that sit on our advisory committee with us. We have local shops that reach out to us, not only looking for help, but asking, to Amber's point, what they can do to help us. So we have a lot of good luck and interaction, collaboration with not just the shops in our area, but shops from across the country. So again, we've been fortunate from that perspective. So
and would you say that this is on the high end of participation, or on the low end of the average participation for a VOTEC?
What was the first part of your question?
Would you say that the participation of shop owners is on the high end or the low end based on the average VOTEC institution across the United States?
Well, I don't know what's going on in a lot of the schools across the country, but I think from my perspective, I would consider it on the high end here. I think we're very fortunate. I know there's some other great schools that are doing some good things across the country that probably have similar interaction. And then unfortunately, you got some schools that probably don't ever hear from anybody that, and they struggle to keep their programs running. So it's a challenge from that perspective.
Well, based on 40,000 shops in North America, let's say 35,000 in the United States, the percentage is still relatively low. Okay. Yeah. In my opinion, we need more participation from our shop owners, from the people that are going to reap the benefit from this. But okay, 30 seconds, Doug. What do I do tomorrow to get me the future ATEC?
I can't disagree with either Corey or Amber and what they've said. So rather than repeat that, from my perspective, if I were a shop owner today, rather than worry about how much experience somebody has coming into my shop, I think I'm going to interview on the basis of their people skills and how do they fit. Same thing with when I interview here for positions at the school. I want to make sure they're going to fit in well with the team, because I've worked with prima donnas before in a body shop environment, and they can be the most caustic person in your shop and cause all kinds of strife, even though they're a great technician. And I've worked with some shops that, everybody was that, the 290 or the 250 hitter that, just was consistent all the time, and you'd rather have him than a 400 hitter all the time. So I think I would want to make sure that my shop and the culture is something that is transferable to the people that come in. Best job I ever had as a technician wasn't the one where I made the most money. It was literally the one that was run by the husband and wife. And every morning they went to the local bakery and they picked up a bag of rolls and lunch stuff, came in and set it out on the table. And, they treated us like we were part of the family. Again, that wasn't the place I made the most money, but it was the best shop that I'd ever worked at in my life. They had a great perspective. They were hands-on. They let their employees know what was expected of them and what they would do in return if you met their expectations. So I think that's probably the best thing that you can do for any new hire. Everybody's going to go out there and try to poach technicians from each other. I don't think that's ever going to change. But if you want to hire long-term, dedicated employees that come to work every day excited about being there, I think you have to make them part of the family. Sounds hokey, but it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I get my 30 seconds, I just have to say, I look at attitude. I can teach anybody whatever I need to teach them within my business here. And it is one thing that starting this business from the ground up, I've done every job in this building, from loading trucks to loading software to all that stuff. So I'm going to say attitude, but I'm also going to say build a great culture that people want to work with you and for you.
I'm really liking the Doug's example of bringing in.
So I'm supposed to bring bread every morning now?
I'm just, All right.
You got lunch today.
We did get lunch today, and I have to thank Tim for buying us some lunch, and it was actually incredible. We've been the whole team's been working very hard this week to present Spineezy Interactive Week.
Well, I really want to thank you as the panel for coming and giving us some insights of what you see now and in the future, and how shop owners, managers, even technicians can work a little bit better and maybe get some better opportunities out there in the marketplace for employees as we continue to have employee turnover because of our aging workforce. Just want to make a couple announcements before we end. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central, we will have Rivian on with us to talk about their new electric adventure vehicles that they're releasing, and their new collision repair program that they've put together. And then at 12:30 Central, we have an interview with Ian Morton. He has an interesting life story of how he's worked through the business up to ownership now of Fix Auto Thoroughbred and Fix Auto Sierra Vista. I've worked with Ian for a while, and he's got a pretty interesting story. And then we'll be back out in Studio One at 2 p.m. Central when we're going to talk about straightening small, medium, and large damage types. So again, thank you, panel, for joining us. I hope everybody enjoyed this. If you have any further questions that you didn't get in the chat, you can send them to me at tmorgan@Spineezy, SPANESI-Americas.com. Go to the CREF website and make a donation today.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you.
They say things are changing in the automotive industry. New technology, computers, self-driving vehicles. From where we stand, we see our future and our path. The Collision Repair Education Foundation supports educational programs, schools, and students working to create qualified, entry-level employees ready for the career opportunities our industry provides. But we can't do this mission without you. Each year, the foundation works to connect corporations and individuals to schools and students across this country. By being a part of our mission, you become an amplified force of leadership, reaching students, instructors, and community businesses in every corner of the industry. From where we stand, together, we see our community evolving and supporting each other. We see connections being forged in fire and fostered with trust. Connections that live long past graduation day. Connections that form the foundation of our workforce and shape the future of collision repair. Your support not only provides the much-needed resources for instructional education, but builds local communities by facilitating a sustainable workforce. A workforce trained in tradition, but equipped for the future. Learn more about how you can impact the collision repair industry yesterday, today, and tomorrow.